Andy, I do have one thing if nobody else has anything that I'd like to just make everybody aware of. So, but if anyone else has anything, let's start there.
It doesn't seem like there's anything else.
Okay. I'm going to share my screen for a second. I started this process with Mark, and I've been deepening it with Stephen and Andy and Aaron and Shelby around the differences between how V2 works and how V3 works. And I just want you all to know that this document exists. And I'm just going to touch on a couple of things. I'm not going to do like a deep show and tell on it, but there's just a few fundamental things that are changing, and I just want us all to understand them. And so, any objections if I spend 2 minutes just pointing out a couple of things for us? Okay.
Nope.
So there's V2 and there's V3. And I think we all know that in V2, I upload an asset. That asset gets split up into chunks. And then I put that asset into a collection, manually put it into a collection. So I'm putting individual assets into collections. And then I can chat with the collection, and I can pull in other specific info like a PDF or another collection. So that's V2. We're all familiar with V2. V3 is not going to work like this. The first big difference is that when I just want to chat, assets are going to be treated as attachments. And an attachment means that we're not running it through our entire system, because that takes time and we want it to be fast. And sometimes I just want to chat with a document and get a quick answer. So the first big change is I'm going to have to say, I want to choose to permanently save attachments to my knowledge base. So by default, when I upload a document, I'm just going to be quickly chatting with it. It's going to be fast, kind of like the original V2 was. It's going to feel a lot more like that, if you remember that. The other thing to understand is that when I do add assets to my knowledge base, there's going to be a lot more than just the chunking that happens in V2. We'll be creating what we call seed concepts. And I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on that right now. There's a lot here, but there's the whole concept thing that's going to be happening, which is basically that other view of pieces of the asset that are concept first. So there's a whole, there's a lot more that we can talk about more that happens there. The really big difference is going to be, instead of a collection, I'm going to be able to create a view of my data. Think of this as like a bucket or a basket, and it's not going to have anything to do with collections. Those are going to be gone. But I might say, I want to make a view of all my knowledge, and I want it to be all the assets that have a label, all my manually labeled assets. Maybe I labeled 10 assets with a specific label. That's very much like V1. Or I might say, I want any assets that I've uploaded within the last 3 days, or I want any assets that have a specific concept. And that would be just like pieces of lots of assets that have to do with the concept. I'm going to make a view, and then I'm going to be able to chat with that view. Makes sense about the difference between like a collection, which is a little bit limiting, because if I'm like, am I in that child collection or that parent collection, or like the child inherits the parent, but not vice versa, like all that's going away. And instead, it's just like, I want to talk to this document or these 10 documents or anything that has to do with this concept. And then I can create actions around that. So that's creating views of my data is a big change. Okay, I'm going to stop there. There's obviously a bunch more in here, but I'm have put the Excalidraw into Zoom chat if anybody wants to explore more.